So last week we made a plan and we even added some games with bingo and with XP. And I feel like we should be golden at this point as far as our journey, right? But I want to talk about something that I don't think we've really talked about, and that is what this actually looks like in our everyday life and with all the things that are competing for our time. Hey y'all, welcome. My name is Kim, and today we are out here lost in the woods. This is my co host, Cutie Pie. She's doing well and sweet as always. But we wanted to come out here because we wanted to kind of do a little catch up, touch base, and talk about some things that I think are important. This has always been my favorite place to come when life feels overwhelming. I would always go for walks in the woods, or I take a project with me, or I take a cup of coffee and just spend some time in nature. And that's always settled me. It's always grounded me. And it's always made me feel very relaxed and very much in the moment. In the past, I have been a little overwhelmed with my yarn and knowing what to do with it. And it was just stress in general was really keeping me from being creative and really focusing on finding that joy. And so that's why I needed a change. I just want to say thank you for a moment because so many of you are joining me on this, and I have gotten the most inspirational and encouraging messages from you all. I've enjoyed so much hearing your stories and seeing your photos and hearing your excitement about the XP. Some of you are even taking your bingo cards and making copies for your knitting groups. That just makes my heart so warm, and I cannot say thank you enough because that's encouragement for me. See, I am a procrastinator and crocheter, and it's the next steps is where I often fail. Like it's a for real thing for me hitting those next steps. And honestly, it's one of the reasons why a lot of my whips have become such long-standing whips and why I have so many of them. Because that next step is usually something that I do not want to do. It could be something as simple as sewing in ends or counting stitches or even figuring out where I went wrong. And I had that happen this week actually. Look at my one artisanal arches blanket. I don't know. I need to sit down and count the stitches. It's developed this very curvy conch shell kind of thing going on. I think it's conch shells that I'm thinking of. I am not the best crocheter. I have never said I was the best crocheter. And that part really frustrates me. It can really make me feel like I failed on a project. I know I can figure it out, but it's just doing that next step of sitting down, counting the stitches, referencing the pattern and figuring out that gets me because that takes energy. And some days it takes energy that I don't have to give, especially in this journey with menopause and my thyroid issues. The fatigue of all the health things that we are going through can really dampen our energy to do those next steps. And I get it completely if you're going through them as well. And so, what I tend to do is to just grab another project to work on. Do you tend to do that too? And I think this is the part that no one talks about. It's not the starting, it's the continuing that we tend to slow down on and sputter out on. So, what I've been trying to do is kind of not overthink that part and not get too overwhelmed with even the fun games that I shared. Because I can look at my plan and I can look at my bingo card and I can see all the available XP that I could possibly make that day. But that can also paralyze some of us. And sometimes, in some days, depending on what energy I have to give, I'll just pick up a project. And that is why I really loved my first bag because it's really been an intentional process for me of making that a lot easier. If you watched last week, you saw my first bag and how I'm utilizing that for this exact reason because I do know that those health issues are going to come. And I do know that fatigue on some days is going to come. And the mental stress of life is definitely going to come. And that kind of helps eliminate some of that for me. And often the things I pick may not be the best thing for me to pick that day. I may have a project that's so much closer to being done, or I may have a project that I can definitely earn more XP on. But some days I just pick up something that brings me joy or that really allows me to be completely mindless in and gives me a sense of freedom and a sense of accomplishment, even if it's just one or two rows. And I think that's important. I think that is even being intentional because we're being intentional and honest with ourselves about how we feel and about how much we can handle at that time. So today I picked up my socks. Yesterday I picked up my shawl. And tomorrow I don't know what I'll pick up, but I'll know tomorrow when that time comes. But the thing I've definitely noticed is that once I just grab that project and I just begin knitting on a project, then my mind just feels at ease. And it's almost like it's telling me, hey, you're right. This is exactly what we needed today. And that whole aspect of knitting or crocheting and the calmness and the joy that it brings and the peace that it brings overtakes me. And that's the purpose of it, right? I mean, that should be our goal is to have that joy every day in the things that we make. And that matters. I think sometimes though we set up a plan and we get so excited about it that we forget that it's just a plan and we feel like if we don't follow it to a T or that if we fall behind, then we failed. And that's not how this is meant to go. This is not how this is meant to be. We forget that it's not about perfection of the plan, but it's about the process of the plan. I don't think the plan's point is that anyways. I think the plan's point is more of a starting point for us. I think it's more of a place to jump from and to begin from. And so helping us set up those plans are what help us find our rhythm and they're what help us find our way through what we're supposed to do. They're just there to help us begin. And after that, it's okay to just let it go and let it breathe and let it grow into whatever it wants to become for you. And I have things that I haven't touched yet. I still haven't touched a tote of yarn that I need to go through. And I still haven't frogged out one of my whips that I'm going to frog. I haven't really looked at all the things on my bingo board. I've just been kind of jotting down my XP for the day. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect to work. It just needs to keep moving and keep processing. And every day, little by little, we keep working. And so we can see that process start to grow. Because things are going to keep coming up in our life. We're still going to have days we're just super tired and the fatigue is really setting in. But we just still need to show up, I think, and encourage each other to show up on those days. Encourage each other on the hard days and encourage each other on the slow days and still encourage each other on the perfect days when we're just knocking things out left and right. Because that choice of choosing what to work on is going to come up every single day. But I will say that having my first bag has definitely helped with that. Sometimes it takes me a minute when I look at my projects for that day to think, what do I need to do over what do I want to do? And I think we can often find ourselves doing the what we need to do and missing out on the joy of what I want to do. And we need to really go for more of what I want to do. We need to have more what I want to do's in our lives. It's easier now, though, after spending some time with my whips and getting reacquainted with them and some of the yarns. And I do want to go through my queue because there are patterns on there that are more what I need to do and not what I want to do. And so maybe we'll do that in a future video. But I do have a couple of games coming out Friday. They're going to help me with that process. And I think it's going to be kind of fun. But my first bag, just having those 4 projects, has really made a big difference, I feel, because I have made progress every day I've picked up and I've sat in it. And my goal was 30 minutes, and I've exceeded that goal every day to almost an hour to an hour and a half of just being creative. And I am so thankful for that because I have really, really missed that in my life. And I realized that even at this point in my life, in this season, that when things are not as stressful and I don't have so many people that need me to care for them, I'm having moments where I'm getting to care for myself through creativity. And it's really helped taking stress off of my mind and off my body. It's definitely made a difference that I can feel and that I can see in my reactions to others around me and overall well being. Because I'm not trying to look at everything anymore. I'm intentional in my focus. And I'm just looking and working on with what's in front of me. I still have the rest of my system that I can fall back on, the second place the bag tree, and then the bookcase of all the cute patterns and yarns, and then even the bookcases of one days, whatever they may be, projects. But the intentionality has definitely been a major role in my process. So I will be sharing a few more games for you on Friday. I think they're going to be a fun addition to what we already have in place, and they may entice you a little bit more to get a little creative in the way that you do things. So I'm looking forward to that. But today we're just going to sit here and we're just going to create together. And if you don't have a project in hand to work on, I hope you look down and grab something that is more of what you want to work on opposed to what you need to work on, and find joy in that and find some peace and comfort in your morning as you're doing that. Because if you're doing it that way, then joy will follow and peace and comfort will follow. And you can't go wrong with that. I will see you Friday. Do y'all hear the train? Cutie pie, why is the train being so loud? Yesterday, it was the guy chopping down trees, and today, all the trains are coming through. I don't understand it. I just want to make a video. And now we have the crow.